I don't know about you, but when I walked in, I said, "Women rule, yes, I'm here." So it's great to be here today, and it's great to be joined here by Tory Burch, the CEO, designer, and philanthropist, as well as Jean Case, who is the CEO of the Case Foundation. So welcome, everyone, and thank you both for being here. I want to talk about women, because I really think that this is going to be the century of women, and you see so many groups making the empowerment of women and girls the cause of our generation, and I think the next generation as well. Tory, talk about your foundation and what you're doing.
Well, our foundation was conceptualized as part of our business plan almost 10 years ago. February will be 10 years. And one of the ideas was that if we could have a successful business, social responsibility would be really part of that. And when I started to think about what I could offer, it was the idea of a startup. And I started to notice that women were facing more challenges than men. And simply when it's access to capital, but also attitude in our business. So it was definitely about women. I know women reinvest into their communities, into their families more often than men at a rate of about 90%. And it just made a lot of sense. And also looking at single mothers and seeing their challenges, for me, it was a no-brainer. So we have an environment that out of 2,300 employees is 90% women, maybe 85, and our foundation is to empower women through micro to small loans, mentorship, and entrepreneurial education.
And a great story about the Tory Burch Foundation is that when she conceived her business plan for her company, you had the foundation within that business plan, and people who advised you said what?
So we were talking about this backstage, but basically when I went to fundraise, we talked about the idea of building a global lifestyle brand. I can't imagine I said that because I had no idea at the time what that meant. And hearing myself, but I also said it was because I wanted to start a foundation. And I would say every man that I met with said we can never mention social responsibility, philanthropy in the same sentence as building a business.
And your response was?
I said it was more or less noise. My parents always said to look at negativity as noise, and that came into that category.
Yeah. And it didn't stop you?
No. It actually propelled me, I think, and my team.
Jean, your background, you're an entrepreneur working at AOL and now the CEO of the Case Foundation. Isn't there a great connection between entrepreneurs and philanthropy, and why so?
Yeah, there really is, and my own background is in digital, and a big part of what we do at the Case Foundation is focused on using digital as an empowering tool, and really it's a terrific opportunity to empower women. It is a level the playing field kind of opportunity. And while technology as a sector might have a long way to go, really, to sort of make women be the ones in power, digital itself can advance women in all kinds of new ways. And so we say we invest in people and ideas that can change the world, and there's probably nothing as powerful as investing in a woman to really see change.
And why is that?
Well, Tory mentioned, it's really interesting when you look at, there's sort of two different things happening. One is, it's been sort of noted that when you invest in a woman reinvests in her family and her community. Much, much more so than men. So it has almost like a domino effect, if you will, a really positive ripple effect that we don't necessarily see in the other gender. So that's very true. I was raised by a single mom, and I saw that, her form of giving and her sort of role in the community was unbelievable and extraordinary, even though she was raising 4 children alone. And we see this time and time again as we work in the developing world, as we work in challenging neighborhoods in our communities, et cetera. The women are truly, truly, all in.
Do you agree with what Madeleine Albright has said, that there's a cold place in hell for women who don't help other women?
That's kind of a severe statement, I know. Secretary Albright, and she's used it many times, and I think
it's pretty funny.
But at the essence of it is women need to support women, and I think that's just, if you flip her statement and say, maybe there's nothing more powerful or more of a blessing than a woman lending a hand to lift other women up.
Tory, what do you see as the biggest challenge you find in your foundation in terms of entrepreneurs?
A lot of the entrepreneurs, well, first of all, they're very inspirational, and meeting the entrepreneurs and hearing that they have often 3 jobs and they have children, they're navigating that world. But I think to get them to really believe in themselves is really a challenge, and to really be able to say, I'm taking a risk, I'm going to really do this, and then going for it. I think it's really finding that ability to take that step forward.
So how do you help give an entrepreneur confidence? Because that's the risk. I mean, you said, I can't believe I was thinking about a global brand way back then. How do you encourage that? How do you feed that desire?
I think mentorship is one of the most important parts of our foundation. And when I started our company, I had so many mentors, and I often say so many fathers and mothers of mine and our team's success, because I personally am an information gatherer, and I think that cold calls and teaching them different skills on things that they might not ordinarily do. And I said, I made so many cold calls and so many were unanswered, but it didn't really deter me. And it's something that it's just talking through. And also this idea, what we're trying to really focus on is peer-to-peer mentorship. So regardless of the business, a lot of these women are experiencing many of the same challenges. So how do we get them to work as a unit and really support each other and teach each other as they go different things that they have faced?
Can you believe someone didn't return Tory Burch's call?
A lot of people.
They're regretting it today as well. They should.
More than a few.
But I think that is really an important message. And even in my business as a journalist, I try and tell young journalists, lots of times you call somebody for an interview and they don't call you back, but don't let that deter you. Or if you're applying for a job, just because you send a resume or make one phone call or one email, that should not be the extent of pushing for what you really believe in. The power of persistence is so key.
And how do you do it in an elegant way? I often tell our entrepreneurs, don't send an email that's 2 pages. Do it really quickly, be respectful, and that's something that we really try to instill as well.
Yeah, really good advice. I think that sometimes it's not politically correct to suggest that there might be gender tendencies, but there are gender tendencies, and I think it doesn't come as naturally. It's one of the beautiful things about women. It doesn't come as naturally to women to self-advocate, but often if you have a mentor that you're working with, they can be the ones saying, you go for it. Like, don't let them, don't be daunted by that. Talk about your accomplishments. Say why you are really qualified for whatever it is you're there to seek. In a year that we did, the Case Foundation is largely women. It's about 80% female employees. Not really on purpose. It just sort of turns out that way. But one year when we were doing performance reviews, we all do self-reviews before we go into the review process. And I looked at the reviews, and every woman, without one exception, had rated herself lower than her manager's rating. And every guy had rated himself higher, or on mark. And so we talked about it as a team, and we said, own it. Like, you can do this. Say, go into the world saying, I've got this. But boy, if you have a mentor that can really help you along that path, I think it just makes a tremendous difference for women. Mm-hmm.
It's sort of knowing your self-worth and having the confidence to ask for a raise when you deserve it. I was the worst at that in my early career. I was like, okay, I'll take it. And I never, ever would negotiate. And I think back on it, and they have every right. It's about quality of work. And that's what I keep talking, and our team keeps talking about.
What about that, though, when you go and ask, for instance, for a raise, and your boss says to you, well, you're doing the job, though, that you're assigned to do. Why should I give you a raise?
Do you want to answer?
I think it comes back to this issue about self-promotion, right?
It does.
You have to be constantly advocating and proving.
But also having the quality of work to prove it. Your work should speak for yourself, and it shouldn't be about gender. And that's something that we talk a lot about. Women should be making exactly what men make if they're doing the same kind of work. Sorry.
There you go, Tori. But women can do really obvious things, and if you're in this room today, just even having a network of really remarkable people that you might know that are women, that you can tap to get advice if you do have a big negotiating session coming up, whether it's a raise, whether it's an investment, whether it's a new job, whatever. Go to them, seek their advice, help them put your script together. Because I feel like Tory does, it's always been hard for me to sit there and say, well, let me tell you why I can do that job. But when someone helps me sort of position it, then I can almost like embrace the words more clearly. And so this idea of mentoring, I really think it should be a lifelong thing, and it doesn't matter where you are. If you're a woman in this world, having people, and they don't necessarily have to be people who've done more than you've done, or sit at a higher, but just literally even having sounding boards as you work through some of these issues that can sometimes hold women back.
Address one of the questions I hear young people ask is, how do I find a mentor? And does it mean a mentor who you talk to every day, or does it mean someone that you might just send a quick email to once every 6 months or every year? How do you see a good mentoring relationship play itself out?
I mean, I see each one differently, and I think it depends on the person, it depends on the time of the person, but some of the most simple advice is the most valuable, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend a lot of time. It's really, how do you get the most out of the time? We do mentor events, and it's sort of a night of, we have 10 mentors and 100 entrepreneurs, and it's different tables like this where there's networking, but it's speed dating. And so we say, just think of the questions you're going to ask, think about how you're going to present yourself and what you're going to get out of this. And often our mentors get as much as the entrepreneurs out of the evenings, and they're often keeping in touch. I wouldn't say it's probably every day. I mean, people are busy, so.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mentor a young woman, and it's almost awkward to say I mentor her because I feel like I get as much out of it as she gets from me, if not more. But she lives in Ghana, and our connection is very real. And going back to this digital age that we live in, communication can take place 24/7. It can cross time zones. It can cross miles. And she was a woman focused on technology, and I've been working with her for about 3 years, and she just became a member of parliament in Ghana. And so the way that we communicate is non-traditional for mentors because we only see each other 2 or 3 times a year.
Jean, what do you think is one of the most important ways women can not only help other women, but empower them and move them into positions of leadership?
Champion each other, no matter where you sit in life. So if you have young women that encourage them, tell them, you've got this, you can do this. If you have young people on your teams, young women need extra encouragement in the way that we've already talked about, just to sort of believe in themselves and to go that extra mile. But I think that just can't be underestimated. And when you read biographies of really remarkable women, time and time again, you will find there was someone, often it's a mom, who said, you can do anything you want to do. And they will point to that as a reason and a motivation for how they got to where they are. And so that message, we can't send it enough in the world to other women.
And I had that mother. I think any time I had doubt, my mother would say to me, "You're Tory Robinson, don't you know that?" and build you up. And I think we can all build each other up, and it doesn't have to be the role of a mother, although it's wonderful when you have that. My mother was a role model, but I think that I have friends that are role models, and we all really support each other. And I think I don't identify with the fashion industry having this cutthroat sort of bitchy environment that people say. And I haven't had that experience. When we recruit people, we say we're building a company that doesn't stand for that. And it's about building entrepreneurs and people, regardless of gender, but it's about building people up and supporting them.
Tory, you have 3 boys, and you talk about this is a shared responsibility between men and women. It's not just about women empowering other women; it's about men too.
Right, and I think men have to be part of the conversation. And I often say that I have 3 brothers and 3 boys,
yes.
So my boys are probably sick of hearing it, but we talk about it a lot. And I think it's so important. There's a cavalier attitude to young boys sometimes when talking about women, and I hear it with their friends. I hear it, and I think it's time to just really stop that and bring them along and be great advocates, half the population, so it's going to build the economy.
Mm-hmm. Jean, where do you see in terms of women in the economy? I mean, we know there is a dearth of women in leadership, but we also know that, since these are some stats I know, since 1982, women have gotten 10 million more college degrees than men. We're getting more PhDs than men. We're getting more master's degrees than men. We're more women in med school than men. I mean, we have just crashed through the educational.
Women are besting. Yeah,
and,
definitely true.
And in terms of, 3/5 of the nation's wealth, we make 90% of the consumer purchases in this country. Right. We're driving this economy. Where do you see that meet, the idea that we're so powerful in that way, meeting that we see within women in leadership positions and political power, that reflect really our strength?
So I think it's going to be a continuum, and I'm hoping that this is the century of women, and I'm extremely encouraged by millennials today. I was explaining to Nora and Tory before we came out, I work at Georgetown Business School as executive in residence there, so I work with MBA candidates, and I have a cohort of female MBA candidates, and they are just unbelievable and unstoppable, and they don't seem to bring any idea that they can't do what the one next to them gets to do because he's a guy. I mean, they're just totally fearless in every way. When I look at social enterprises, these are companies and nonprofit organizations out to change the world. Many of them are female-led. I think about young Barbara Bush and Global Health Corps, Kristen Titus, who's doing work with Girls Who Code. And if you haven't heard of Girls Who Code, I'd encourage you to take a look at it if you care about empowering women, because the future of our business really is about technology. I think the idea of having technology companies is going to go away. I think the next generation of businesses will change the world, but will be powered by technology. So whether you're a woman or a man, quite frankly, having sort of some of the STEM skills, and particularly the ability to code or understand coding, is really important. So I think that's just a really strategic kind of area of focus, and not surprisingly, it's a young, fearless woman who's taking some of that forward. So I'm really encouraged by the next generation. And the only other thing I'd add, Nora, is everything you said is right about where women are coming out. But we're still not seeing, so there are more women PhDs, but they're not getting the plum positions on scientific boards or advisory boards at some of the pharma, et cetera. We're still not seeing equivalencies in boards anywhere close to where we should be. So, is it going to take a generation? What's it going to take? I sort of believe in the hockey stick myself. I think we're slow, slow, slow. And as these young women we've been talking about, get a little more traction, I'm really hoping we're going to see things change in a significant way.
I like that, the hockey stick. That's a good one. How do you see that, Tory?
No, I agree. I mean, I heard someone from backstage saying women don't rule up here, and I think it's about making women rule, and it's sort of really believing in that and not standing for anything different. And I was at Stanford Business School recently and meeting a lot of the young girls there. It's amazing. Their tenacity, their will to change things. And we were talking about that backstage. And I think we all have to be part of that. And if no one stands up, then it's not going to happen.
All right. Well, Jean Case and Tory Burch, you both rule.
Can I just say one thing, Nora?
Yes.
I just want to thank Kim Kingsley and Susan Molinari for this incredible event, and I'm so honored to be part of it. I don't know where they are, but I just want to.
And Tory, for your support of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. All right.
Thank you all for coming. On behalf of Politico, Tory Burch, and